because of time reference, that 5.5 hour, usually it will be 12 my time when I used to sleep. So it will be 5:30 Indian time. But I'm not getting sleep at all. So I thought of better to complete one class so that I can complete the rest of the topics, pending topics like geo replication, auto failure groups, and most likely this monitoring and Azure automation. That is what left. So I wanted to complete at least failure groups and geo replication for today, so we can move bit further. Okay, let's start now. So anyone, of course, we are just 6. It's okay, fine. Have you ever worked on these two things, geo replication and auto failure groups? Just wanted to know because I didn't. I just practiced myself. Anand,
No.
no. So why we need this HA and DR for Azure SQL when the Microsoft is giving such huge SLS, like they will say 99.9% something, they are providing good SLS, right? But still, why we need this HA and DR? So let's talk about HA and DR for Azure SQL for a second, and then we'll start with geo replication and auto failure groups. So what do you know about HA and DR for Azure SQL? If I don't go with HNDR for Azure SQL, what will happen? Oh God! So I'm getting a lot of noise from my end. So I don't know about you. Uh, yeah. So any thoughts on that? Like why I need HNDR for Azure SQL? Okay. So when we have everything in place, like let's talk about Azure SQL for a second. So Azure SQL by default, it's Microsoft managed platform as a service model. And we have databases backups for every 5 minutes or so, the log backups, and every day differentials, and every week full backups are there. So we have everything in place, but even though we are having everything in place, for we have different types of models, right? vCore purchasing model and DTU purchasing model. Despite of different models, the backup concept remains the same, and the SLAs also, it remains the same. There is no difference when it comes to SLAs with the DTU model or vCore purchasing model. The only thing is the backups locally it will happen. I mean, so we have the concept of zones. So if you remember a long time back when we started our classes, IAS classes, we discussed about zones, availability zones, right? So what are availability zones? So availability zones are nothing but some set of data centers, right? So we have 3 availability zones in one region. So every region, if I take, so Azure is nothing but it's divided into set of regions. So every region we have some availability zones, and inside one region I will have 3 availability zones, and inside availability zones I have availability sets. Availability sets is for infrastructure as a service thing, but still I'm just letting you know. So we have zones here, and usually the backups whatever Microsoft is taking, it will be local, but we have the option. So we have the option of taking the backups to local. So let me show you that option first instead of talking manually. Um, this class will be interesting, guys, because the demo is on Java. So you'll come to know how it works internally. So I just wanted to show you some few things before going with geo replication and auto failure groups. So if I open up here, this is the concept of backup. So I have locally redundant backup storage and zone redundant, as we just discussed. Zone is nothing but availability zones, the same concept, and geo redundant backup storage. So we have 3 options here. So even if I make use of these 3 concepts, I can achieve H and DR, right, to a certain extent. So if I am able to copy the backups to zone, so within that zone, I will be safeguarded. So if I wanted to copy those backup files to another location, almost different locations together, different regions, then I can go with geo redundant. So if you have these options, why I still need geo replication and Azure failure groups? That is what we should discuss. So first thing first. So did you understand this? So when can I go with these options? locally, zone, and zero redundant. Locally, I need not say anything. The backups will be taken locally. What is zone redundant here? So the backups will be copied to the respective availability zones. And this is geo redundant backup storage. So if I am able to copy these backups across the regions, so it will be geo redundant. So if something happens to my databases, I can take the backups from that location and I can restore it here. So that is the concept of backups, right? If I'm having the backups, imagine on-premises, I have log shipping. What log shipping is doing, it is copying the backup files from one share to another server, DR server. That DR server can be in the same region, different region, work group, domainless, everything, whatever it is. So it's the same thing. So if something happens, I need to restore from that backup file. So if entire data center goes down, I can take those backups and I can restore it here. But imagine in your company, if you have some strict SLS, so they cannot afford SLS. They have very strict SLS. If that is the case, then we have to go with HA and DR options, right? So when it comes to HA, again, just talk about HA here. So we have two types of models here, general purpose and business critical, right? So when I discussed about general purpose, I told you general purpose is very similar to the clustering concept, right? And business critical is something similar to availability groups. So if, for example, if I am on business critical, what's your thought on business critical? If I have configured my Azure SQL on business critical model, so what's your thoughts? So as I said, Azure SQL or Azure Managed Instance, both of them, they have the business critical option. So if I go with that option, by default, I will have availability groups being configured for us, right? If I have availability group, then definitely I have my HA in place. Is that right or not? My statement. So when I'm saying when Azure SQL, when I configure Azure SQL with business critical, internally, you need not do anything. Microsoft itself is giving you always on availability groups. It will not appear, I mean, you will not be able to see that visually, but behind the scenes, they are providing this option. And for your information, you can use one of the nodes as read-only replica also. So that is possible. That is possible in business critical model. So when I have the availability groups in place, that is nothing but HA and a kind of DR also, right? Why will I go with availability groups? So what is the use of availability groups in on-premises? Obviously for HA and DR. So when Microsoft is providing HA and DR internally for Azure SQL and Azure Managed Instance, still why I need to go with this auto failover groups and Geo Replication? So that is the question that should come to your mind. So the first, whenever you are dealing with any new topic, the first question is why they have introduced this topic despite of having all these options. So I can understand Geo, when I go with the general purpose model, it is just like clustering. The storage is placed remotely and only 10 dB is placed locally. So we don't have such options. So obviously I can think about HA and DR for general purpose model. But for business critical, we have this option, right? Azure itself, sorry, Microsoft itself has provided inbuilt availability groups. So then what is the purpose of Geo Replication and auto failover groups then? Any idea like why they have come up with Geo Replication again? When we have, yeah, go ahead.
When we have that either availability zone level disaster recovery, we can go for the apart from the geolocation instead of the zone. And also we have load balancing also
No,
will be available.
actually, this load balancing, this entire stuff, it is with IaaS. We are talking about platform as a service here, either Azure MI or Azure SQL. And also, I'm telling you, you will not be able to see that configuration at all. Okay, so you cannot see that. If I open this up, for example, if I open this database, uh, databases, you will not see anything apart from the user database what I have, right? You will not see that availability groups and all those things will not appear inside Azure SQL or MI because they are doing it internally. You will not find, even if you fire any DMVs, it will return empty because if I do select start from availability groups or something else, it will not show you anything because it is being carried out internally by Microsoft. Okay, so when they are doing it internally, yes, we can use that for HA purpose. I do agree, but not for DR. Okay, HA is there for business critical, and for business critical, and also I'm letting you know, one of the replicas you can use it as listener. Sorry, we can use it as read-only replica, and all the configuration, whatever they are doing, it is synchronous. It is synchronous. Again, I'm repeating, the model is synchronous over there for business critical. Okay, so now I wanted to give one important thing here. First thing is Azure SQL. For Azure SQL, what are the options? What we have when it comes to backups? We have three options: local, zone redundant, and geo redundant. Local, there is nothing that we can achieve with local, so it is of, I mean, it is by default. If I wanted to copy my backup files, I can copy it to zone redundant. I can make it as a kind of DR across the zone. If I wanted to spread it across the regions, then I have to go with geo redundant. So I can achieve DR here, but with the help of backups. So my backups will be placed in multiple locations based on the option what I go with here. That is fine. So the next question is, I have two options, general purpose and business critical. Of course, I'm not talking about hyperscale here because I'm not completely aware of hyperscale architecture. So I'm not touching that. I'm just talking about general purpose and business critical. So in general purpose, let me show you the diagram. So it will give us some idea. General purpose Azure SQL architecture. When I search for something, it will never appear properly. So let me show you. Yeah, this one. So this is what I'm talking about. So we have basic, standard, and general purpose service tier, and this is locally redundant availability. So when I talk about this general purpose, we have something called as gateways. We did discuss about gateways in our classes. And here, if you look the concept of general purpose, it is something similar to our failover clusters. I'm just letting you know the kind of architecture what Microsoft is doing internally. So we can, if I'm saying clustering, it is behind the scenes. We cannot we cannot get that information by firing any of the DMVs. Okay, it is all internal to the Microsoft. You cannot get that information by firing any queries. So we are just comparing them with the existing technologies what we have with on premises. That's it. Okay, so we have the primary replica here, and we have the spare nodes here. So this is primary node, these are secondary nodes, and the storage is placed remotely when it comes to general purpose. Okay, whereas when it comes to business critical, uh, so I will take this one. So this is business critical. If you see this business critical, we have four replicas. Leaving out the primary replica, I have three replicas, and I can use one replica as read only for read only purpose, and the other two replicas also is there in case if something goes wrong. So business critical is having HA by default, and even for general purpose, HA is there, but only at cluster level, right? Nothing but when I talk about clustering, so clustering is there for instance level, right? When I take on premises, what is the advantage of clustering? So if something goes wrong to my instance will be safeguarded with the help of the spare nodes. So the same concept applies here. So general purpose architecture is something similar to our failover clusters, and business critical architecture is similar to our availability groups. So that is what Microsoft is doing behind the scenes. So now, final question. So if someone asks you in interview, how can you leverage HA and DR? Why should I go with HA and DR for Azure SQL? So your answer should be, if I am on business critical, you need not worry about HA, at least HA. You need not worry about HA because we have always on availability groups in place. But you will not be able to see that. It is behind the scenes. It will be done behind the scenes, and it is not being exposed to us. But internally, Microsoft is doing availability groups for our business critical architecture. Whereas for our general purpose architecture, Microsoft is doing failover clustering model. So this is the HA what we have inbuilt for Azure SQL and for Azure MI. The architecture remains the same for both with few differences. It will not be much. It will not be much. There are not much differences, but it's a few differences. Okay. So this is what I wanted to go with first. And so now I hope you understand what is Azure SQL is having by default. These are all default things. Questions? Am I audible? Okay,
Yeah.
I can hear you. So are you clear? I am okay with the questions. You can ask me any number of questions. I'm completely okay. Before going with geo replication and auto failure groups, I wanted to make sure that you understand the concepts, default concepts of high availability, what we have with Azure SQL. Okay, now if you don't have, so the next question is why I need geo replication and what is geo replication, and what is why I need auto failure groups and what is auto failure groups. That is our next question, right? So geo replication, that is our topic. So first let's discuss about geo replication. So whatever the document what I'm referring, it's all Microsoft documentation because these are something new. So I better to tend to go with geo replication. Sorry, Microsoft documentation instead of the other things. So let's just discuss about geo replication first. So as they are saying, active geo replication is a feature that lets you create continuously synchronized readable secondary database for our primary database. So if you read this line, so it looks similar to our on-premises thing, right? It can be availability groups or log shipping, anything. So geo replication is nothing but you are just copying the content from one server to another server. So the differences between auto failure groups and geo replication you will come to know. But first I would like to touch about these 2 points, the basic points, and then I will show you with a good demo. So the first thing is the readable secondary database. Whatever what we are thinking about to achieve the HRDR, it can be in the same region as the primary, or it can be in different region. So this line is very, very, very important. So what is geo replication? Geo replication is nothing but we are copying the contents of the Azure SQL database from one region to another region, or it can be on the same region. So if you think about this, so for a second, if I ask you, imagine you are on business critical, and will you configure geo replication for that database? Think about this question because it might be little confusing, but again I'm repeating. I am on business critical Azure model, okay, and someone is asking you to configure geo replication in the same region, okay, same region. So do you think it is needed or not?
Mm, I'm thinking so not.
Okay, so as the architecture says, let's take about this architecture for a second. So what they are saying, so for business critical, this is our architecture. So we have 4 replicas, okay, they are all under one region, okay, they're all under one region, and I'm getting the HA internally inbuilt. So is it advisable to go with geo replication for our business critical model if you are in the same region? Again I'm saying if you are on the same region, so the answer is no. So that is why you have to understand the basics, guys. So if someone is asking you to configure geo replication, don't straight away go and configure geo replication. It's very simple, it's just few clicks and you can achieve this geo replication. That is not the great thing. The thing is when I should configure geo replication and when it makes sense, right? So if you are on business critical model, you are getting that availability groups automatically. You don't need to do anything. So when I'm talking about availability groups, it is inside that region, right? So geo replication, in my view, it doesn't make any sense if you are on business critical, and if you wanted to configure it in the same region, it's of no use because you are achieving that purpose internally. So again, if you are configuring, it will be of extra cost. That's it, nothing great. But if you are on general purpose, and if I'm asking the same question, it makes sense even on the same region, because in general purpose, it's kind of failover clusters, right? Failover cluster concept is not having any HA for databases. It is having HA only at instance level. So it makes sense if you are on general purpose model, and if someone is asking you to configure geo replication inside the same region, you can think about it. It's okay. It's okay. It makes sense. But in case of business critical, I don't think it makes sense because already it is there. But if I ask you the other way, like if I wanted to configure a geo replication in another region, whether it is general purpose or business critical, yes, it makes sense because it is another region. If I take business critical here, it is only within that one region. It is not to the another region. It is not across the regions. So if you are configuring geo replication, make sure that you check the model first, whether it is business critical or what is on general purpose. If you are on business critical and if someone is asking you to configure geo replication inside the same region, it's of no use. So don't go with that option at all. If you are on general purpose, yes, you can think about it. It makes sense. But usually geo replication is tend to go with across the regions, not within the same region. But you can configure. That is what I'm saying. You can configure for the same region also. Okay, this kind of readable secondary database is also known as geo secondary or geo replica. So obviously that is primary. This is secondary. So once the geo replication is set up, you can initiate geo failover to a geo secondary in different Azure regions. So if you wanted to leverage this functionality across different regions, yes, you can think about geo replication. So this is at database level. So you have to configure geo replication at database level. I will show you with a demo. So I will talk about that in a few moments. And the only difference between there are a few differences. So let me show you that part first, and then I will talk about that. I think I'm talking a bit fastly today. I'm sorry, but if you have any questions, please stop me. What is it? Geo replication and auto failure groups. Again, we have two options here. What is it? Geo replication versus auto failure groups. You have to understand these differences also. So then only you will feel comfortable. Not this one. As I told you, whenever it is required most, I will not get that link. One second. Images. Yes, this one. So this is the image from Microsoft. So these are the differences between geo replication and auto failure groups. So in geo replication, we will be configuring per database. Each database I can include in geo replication. Whereas if I wanted to perform this for all the databases inside that Azure SQL, I can go with auto failure groups. That is the first difference. Again, I'm repeating. If I wanted to configure replication, replication is nothing but the copy of data. Don't think about like our regular replication. So I'm just saying I'm using the word replication, doesn't mean that transactional or merge or something like that. So I'm in my terms, replication is nothing but you're copying the data from primary to secondary. So when it comes to geo replication, it is being done at database level. Whereas if you wanted to do it for all the databases at one shot, you have to go with auto failover groups. That is the first thing. Second thing, automatic failover. We don't have automatic failovers for geo replication, but we have the automatic failover for auto failover groups. That is second difference. And since we don't have that automatic failover, so failover for multiple databases is not possible because, as I said, this is at database level, per database level. So you'll come to know. Just wait for a few minutes. I will show you the demo. So this option is there for auto failover groups. And connection string, update the connection string. Yes, if something gets failed over, I have to update my connection string. You need not do in case of auto failure groups. That is advantage. So three major differences are here. And manage instance will support only auto failure groups. We don't have the concept of geo replication for manage instance. So as I said, we can configure geo replication in the same region, but that is not the case with auto failure groups. It has to be different region. And multiple replicas, yes, I can configure up to 4. This option is not there for auto failure groups. We cannot go with multiple replicas. And readable facility, it is there for both the options. So you have to have this picture in your mind all the time when you are going with geo replication or auto failure groups, guys. This 6 or 7 differences should be there in our minds all the time when we are doing with HA for Azure SQL. Okay, so there are many confusions. Some people are getting confused with business critical and general purpose architecture itself. And some people are not sure when to configure geo replication and when to configure auto failure groups. So if you can have this information with you, you will be very safeguarded. Okay, so again, this is very important. So I will just open this page up for us, and let's start our demo first so that you will feel comfortable. Let me show you my things what I have for the moment. So I have Azure AD SQL, that is my logical server, Azure SQL Server. So if I open this option, observe the options carefully, then only you will be able to understand those differences. So on the left hand side, left hand pane, so I have something called as failover groups. So are you seeing anything like geo replication? For server, this is for server. Azure AD SQL is my server itself. This is the server name, logical server name. So if I'm opening this Azure SQL server, on the left hand side, I can see only failover groups. Okay, so if I take one of the databases inside this server, for example, I have 4 databases, right? I have 4 databases: AdventureWorks, some stats demo, and Tie Store. If I click on any one of the databases, for example, Tie Store, and if I'm checking the options, then I have something called as replicas here. This is nothing but geo replication. So this is the first difference, guys. Are you clear with the difference? Again, I'm repeating, Azure SQL Server, the logical server. So this is my logical server. Azure AD SQL is my logical server. And if I'm checking for the options, I have only failover groups for the server level. Okay, so that is the difference what they are saying. So of course, this is not being written out here, but that is the first difference. That is the first difference what I discussed. If I wanted to configure auto failover groups, I can do it for all the databases at one shot. Okay, whereas geo replication is at database level. Again, I'm repeating, database level. Yes, someone is about to ask question. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, Vamsi. Actually, I'm thinking it is database for means in geo replication only one database we can.
Oh, sorry. 1 second. I just lost my volume. Yeah, go ahead now. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Sorry, I just lost. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
only geo replication means
Hmm.
only one database level.
Yes, yes, yes. Only
We
for
cannot
single
configure
database. No, we cannot
means.
configure for multiple databases. It's not possible.
Okay, thanks.
So that is the first difference. So geo replication is at database level, whereas auto failure groups is at instance level. I can say, I'll just call it as instance. It's not instance actually, it's a logical server. But to make you feel comfortable, I'm using that term. So don't get me wrong. So it's just for our understanding purpose. So I will consider this as instance, and I will consider database as database level. Okay, so geo replication is kind of like at the database per database, whereas auto failure groups is kind of at instance level. Just consider that. Okay, so it's not exact instance, it's a logical server, and the concept is slightly different. Okay, so first difference you understood. So if I'm checking the options at the instance level only, I'm able to see this failure groups, nothing but auto failure groups. And if I take any of the databases, like the whatever the database what I go with, we have that option of replicas. So under that, let me show you.
Um,
So yeah,
One more question.
go ahead. I'm okay
Uh,
with the questions.
Actually, if we configure within the same logical server two databases, then it will create two replicas, right?
So the next question, if I wanted to do it in the same instance, right? I mean, same logical server, right? So that's why I said this is very important. So if you see this, so if I wanted to do this inside this same logical server, think about this. So same logical server is nothing but same region, right? So I have only one logical server, means it will be in one region. For example, I'm placing my servers in North Europe. So I have only one region, North Europe. Okay, so if I wanted to configure geo replication, yes, I can do. But can you configure auto failure groups within the same region? No,
No.
no. So if you wanted to make use of replication inside the same logical server, then you can think about geo replication only. And also at the beginning, I told you, if you are on business critical, it's not at all required. If you are on business critical, it's not at all required, because in business critical, we have availability groups internally. So you can skip that. I mean, not skip. You can say confidently that it is not required because Microsoft is doing it behind the scenes. It's not required. Okay. So now, any other questions? Please ask questions, because this is completely new topic. So there will be a hell lot of questions in your mind. Okay. So you understood the difference. So this replica is at database level, whereas the other one is at server level. I can say. Okay. So now come back. So for actually, I have to explain geo replication first, and then I have to show you auto failure groups. But now I'm showing auto failure groups first, and then I'm showing geo replication, because I have something I have to explain you. That's the reason I'm picking up auto failure groups first, and then I'll talk about geo replication. So again, have this information with you all the time. If you can have this information, this 6 or 7 differences, it will make our lives very easy. Okay. So now let's move on, and I will show you how I configured. I will show my servers first, and then I will delete those, and I'll show you how to do it from the scratch. So I have the setup ready with me. So I wanted to talk about that first, and then I will do the reverse engineering later. So this is my primary server, or the first server what I have. This is Azure AD SQL, and I have one more server by name my DR server. So that is the naming notation what I have given. I know it's not the best. But you have to adjust for that. So I have two servers, my DR server. Okay. So observe the configuration of my DR server. My DR server is secondary server, and it is available in West Europe. Okay. Please make a note of this. It's in West Europe. Whereas Azure AD SQL, it is there on North Europe. So that is the first difference, guys. So when I say auto failure groups, you have to configure it inside. Sorry, you have to configure it in different regions. It's not possible in the same region. So you can clearly see this auto failure groups can be in the same region as primary. No, not at all. It's not possible. So I have two logical servers. One logical server is in North Europe. The another logical server is in West Europe. So that is my configuration. My DR server is in West, and the main server is in North. So understood? So two servers, two logical servers, and that is what I have. So I told you I already configured, but I will show you once I'm finished with my demos. I will show you how to do this. It will not take much time. It's very simple. So here I have to come here, and I have to click on add group. So I did this. Okay, but I will still show you. As of now, I have the configuration. So as you can see, I have something called as North Europe as primary and West Europe as secondary. Okay, so the other differences, it's being written over here. I can fail over multiple databases at one shot. That is the first difference. Okay, automatic failover, that is another main difference. Automatic failover is there for auto failure groups. It's not possible for geo replication, and no need to change my connection string in case something gets failed over, right? So I don't need to change my connection strings. So let me show you my setup again. So if I wanted to do it, I can do like this. I can click on add failure group. So pass on some legitimate name in case if you are doing in real time. So this is just for demo, right? So I'm just giving AZ failure group listener, something like this. Okay. So I need to choose the logical server. So I cannot choose the same logical server here. I have to choose the counterpart. If you try to do the same thing, it will throw an error. So it will straight away throw an error saying that it's not possible. So I have to have my two logical servers here, and those two logical servers it has to be on different regions. Okay, definitely it has to be on different regions if I'm doing with auto failure groups. So I'm choosing my DR server here. Okay, see, I am choosing my DR server, and I'm choosing my DR server as my counterpart, which is not possible. So I have to go with the other part. So the other region. So Azure AD SQL is the other region. So this is the first thing. Second thing is read write failover policy. So this is automatic and manual. So I will talk about this later, not now, and also about this option later, because these two options are very internal. So I wanted to talk about this bit later. And what are the databases that you wanted to configure for auto failure groups? If I wanted to configure all databases, I can do it one shot. That is what they are saying. So failover multiple databases simultaneously means I can configure auto failure groups for all the databases, what I have inside that logical server. You got it right? So if I have 10 databases, I can configure those 10 databases inside my auto failure groups. So this is at one shot. So at one shot, I can choose all the databases, and all the databases will participate in auto failure groups. Got it? Or any questions? Because you have to understand. So I will take my time. So let me know. Oh, no charger. No questions? Is it clear?
Yes, one.
Can I ask some questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a second, guys. I'm just keeping my. So when I'm saying the first thing is this difference, you don't need to update connection strings, right? That is what they are saying. You don't need to update the connection strings. What does it mean? So where will I get this concept in our SQL Server, whether it is on premises or whatever?
For opening application.
No. So for example, if I take the failover options or the H options in on
Listener
premises.
IP.
Log shipping. Log shipping.
Okay, let's talk about log shipping for a second. So if I failover from primary to secondary, secondary is a different server, right?
You need to update.
We need to update. So log shipping is not the right answer. So next, database mirroring. Of course, it is outdated. Will it be possible in database mirroring? Need to connection, changing the connection string, application connection string.
Not required in the automatic failover.
Yeah, if you are going with automatic failover option in database mirroring, you need not configure this. It will be there inbuilt. Of course, you have to add some connection parameters to your connection strings, but it is possible in database mirroring, provided if you are going with automatic failover. Next technology is clustering. So do you have that facility in clustering?
Yes, no need to update.
Yeah, clustering is at instance level. It's not at database level. So if something goes wrong, we are using virtual server name over there. So virtual server name remains the same. It doesn't matter what are the nodes on which it is running. You are connecting to your application using that virtual server name or virtual server IP, whatever it is. So you are using that connection string over there. So you need not modify your connection strings in case of failover clusters, but it is not at the database level. The HA is only at the instance level. The final thing is availability groups. So in case of availability groups, we have the listener concept. So if something goes wrong with primary replica, automatically secondary replica will take the control, but listener would get failed over from primary to secondary, and the applications need not change their connection strings, right? So the same thing here. Geo replication, in case of geo replication, if it gets failed over from one region to another region, you have to update manually. That is there, right? Whereas in case of auto failure groups, it's not required. Auto failure groups, we have the listener configuration, listener kind of properties here, and kind of similar thing. So I will show you. So the option what I'm doing here, this is the option, right? So the first option is, it is asking for the failure group name, not this one, this one. Failure group name. If you see here, this failure group name is being appended with this connection string. Are you getting? Again, I'm saying, so I'm going to my server. It's okay. I'll discard. So I'm going to my server. Okay. And only at the server level, you'll find this option, failure groups, only at server level, not at the database level. Okay. It's there already. You can ignore it. So click on add group. So if I'm doing for the first time, I have to click on add group. So here you are passing some failure group name, So you are passing some name, and automatically, just like our logical server, this failure group name is also being appended with database.windows.net. Means It's now being treated as a logical server. That is the beauty of auto failure groups. Why we are not making any changes to our connection string despite of failures in auto failure groups? Because it is working with the concept of failure group name. It's not with the logical server name or with the database names. We are providing a separate name here altogether. That separate name is something very similar to our always on listener configuration. So this is nothing but always on listener. Okay, I'm just showing you comparison. You're getting right. This might not be exactly equivalent to our on-premises because there are few differences. But if I wanted to compare, yes, I can consider this as a kind of on-premises listener concept. Here, the name, whatever what I'm giving, it will be appended with .database.windows.net. That is why, in case if something goes wrong with application, if it gets failed over from one region to another region, the application team need not update their connection strings because they will be connected with this name, not with the logical server name. That is the beauty of auto failure groups. Did you get this? It's okay or still confusion?
So
Okay, so now this point makes sense, right? So let me go again. Update the connection string after the failover. In Geo Replication, yes, you have to update manually. In case of auto failure groups, no. So now you know the reason why it is not required. Why it is not required? Because the failure group name is being appended with .database.windows.net, and the application team will connect with this name, not with the logical server name of primary or the logical server name of secondary. It's not required. You will straight away connect with this failure group name. That is the beauty of auto failure groups. That is the main difference. Okay, so clear, right? I hope it makes sense. Okay, now I'm just showing you my setup, which I have configured. So let me show you my setup first. So the name what I have given is my test FG, and that is what I've given. It's okay. It doesn't look great, but still bear with me. So if you see my test FG, I have two logical servers. One is Azure AD SQL, which is in North Europe. So just keep that in your mind. North Europe is my primary, and the counterpart is West Europe, which is secondary. Okay, so we have at the bottom two endpoints here, right? It's nothing but connection strings. So one is read write listener endpoint, and the other one is read only listener endpoint. So just keep an eye on these two endpoints. I'll talk about that also. So before showing you something, so let me double check my networking section, and I have an interesting demo. That's the reason. So my public access is disabled here. First, I will enable this. And for your information, till now, of course, I should not be revealing this IP addresses, but it's okay. This was my IP when I was in Europe, but when I came to India, automatically I got different public IP. So I have to add this IP for my local laptop to access this service. So I'm just letting you know. So if you are connecting from different worlds, so there will be a lot of work for our network engineers. You might not be knowing this, but they are doing lot many things on Azure world. Okay, leave this. So let me go to my counterpart and let me turn on the public access, because I'm going to talk about private endpoints also. So that's the reason. Sorry. Home, my dear server, networking. Okay, I'm enabling the public access first. Okay, done. So I have an application here, a Java application. So I will show you that code also. So this is my application. Okay, don't worry about what are the contents, what is being written inside this Java app. But the only thing is you have to understand the concept. So what is the connection string, what I am giving to the end user? Imagine that I am the end user here. Okay, you are the DBS. So I approached you and I'm asking for the connection string. So you have already configured the auto failure groups. So I am a developer. Imagine I am the developer and I am requesting you to provide me the connection string. So what will you give? Will you give primary logical server or secondary logical server? Which one will you will you give for me? 1 second, guys. I will just ignore this WhatsApp. Leave. Okay, coming back to our question. So I am the developer and I requested you to configure auto failure groups. You did that. And now I am asking you to provide me the connection string. So what will you provide me? Will you provide the logical server name like my DR server, or will you provide Azure AD SQL? Which one will you present it to me? I'm the
Tailor
developer
group.
now. Yeah. So it is not either Azure AD SQL or it is not either my DR server. No, I don't need either of them. I need failover cluster. Failover. What is the exact name? 1 second. It will be here. So I have this configuration. So I have to provide my test fg. I have to provide the entire name. So it has to be my test fg dot database dot windows dot net. If I open this, if I open my code, so that is what I'm giving here. My test fg. It is neither Azure AD SQL or nor my DR server. Nothing. Both of them are not there. I'm just passing the failure group name. So this is my database name. I have to give my database name, user and password. Okay. So and what I'm doing is I'm inserting a row into the database and I'm reading that row again. That is what I'm doing inside this application. Okay. So I have an application where if you see here, I'm inserting a row into the sales LT product. That is the table name. And I'm reading the same row from that table. So whatever the row, what I'm inserting, and I'm reading that same row again. Okay, so that is my application. So let me show you. First, I would like to recompile this. And then I will run the app. Okay, let's wait for it. For the first time, it might fail because it's just trying to connect to the database. So it might fail for few seconds. After that, it will start writing. So if everything goes well, it should be like this: insert from primary successful, read from secondary successful. Okay, so that will be my statement. So insert on primary and read from the secondary. Both are successful now. So you are the DBA now. So can you let me know what is primary and what is secondary, and how will you find out that information? Just like always on. So in always on, I have the primary and secondary, right? So the same concept here. So if that is the case, I can go to my portal and I can see it from here. I can see it from Azure AD SQL is my North Europe, which is primary, and my DR server is the West Europe, which is secondary. So if I connect to my application now, or to the listener, let me show you. I'll just copy this, Control C, remove everything. Okay, remove. So I'm connecting with listener. Okay, first I'm connecting with listener. So my test fg is my listener name, and I'm supplying the password. Okay, so it is connecting with this listener name, not with the logical server names. If I select @ server name, so it has to give me Azure AD SQL, right? Because as of now, Azure AD SQL is my primary. Okay, so I have one more endpoint called as read-only endpoint. Okay, let me connect with that endpoint. So I'm connecting with read-only endpoint now, and let's see what will be the server name in case of this configuration. Both looks one and the same. If you see it, if you observe it carefully, it is failover group name dot database dot windows dot net. Here it will be failover group name dot secondary dot database dot windows dot net. If you see secondary in case of any of your Azure SQL servers, it means I can say straight away it is part of auto failure groups. Remember this, guys. If you see secondary inside your connection strings for Azure SQL servers, that means your servers are a part of auto failure groups. Straight away, we can say that. Okay.
Uh,
So yeah,
yeah, Vamsi, I have one doubt.
go ahead.
Regarding your Java application, that one from insert from
Hmm,
primary and
hmm,
read
yeah.
from secondary,
Hmm,
like that you designed, right?
yeah.
The same way, like in on always on premises read intent option, like that.
Yes, that
How
is
will
what we are doing. So if you see here, I will explain you. But before going to explain about that part, so here, if you see, I passed this connection string, right? My test fg dot secondary dot database dot windows dot net. Only difference is the secondary term or the secondary keyword. That is what missing from the first part. If I fire select @ server name by connecting this as the connection string, what is the output? What I am getting? My DR server, which is the secondary server. Okay. Whereas when I connect to my test FG without using that secondary inside my connection string, I am connecting to Azure AD SQL. Means if any application wants to use their application for reporting purpose, okay, so you have to pass the connection string like this. So if you see my application, so to answer you, so at the beginning, if you see, so read write URL. Okay, this is my read write URL. If I'm saying read write, obviously it will be primary replica because I cannot have only read only on primaries. Of course, we can do read onlys, but when I say read write, it is my primary replica. If you check this format, it is JDBC plus SQL Server. This server name is we are getting this from here. Okay, so this is the format database.windows.net and read write URL is connecting to our primary server, whereas read only URL. Read only means secondary server. In case of secondaries, the only difference is we are adding the secondary keyword inside my connection strings. So in case of on premises, you are configuring routing URL, right? Did you ever configure? Of course, I believe you are aware of configuring this routing, always on routing. So if that is the case, when you configure routing, automatically your application will connect to our secondary servers if you are reading, and if you are writing, you will be connecting to your primary replica. The same concept, exactly same concept, no difference. Did you get the answer? Or
yes.
okay, so by looking at this, I can say auto failure groups is nothing but our always on, something very similar to our always on, where we have two connection strings, one for the primary and one for the secondary. And for the secondary, I can use it for reporting, and for the primary, I can use it for DML purposes. So for the secondary, the connection string should be read only URL, and for the primary, the connection string is read write URL. So that is the difference. And if I'm imagine you are not a developer and you just wanted to connect to databases, if that is the case, if you connect to your primary, it is Azure AD SQL. I mean, North Europe is my primary. And if I pass secondary inside my connection string, obviously I will be connecting to my DR server, the counterpart, which is in West Europe. So that is the setup. Now, if I perform failover, I can perform failover from here. I can use PowerShell scripts. It's our choice. So if I wanted to leverage failover now, imagine I wanted to consider my DR server as primary. So I'll click on failover. So it will say there will be connections drops. So just keep an eye, guys. While doing this, till now I'm getting primary successful. Read from secondary also successful. Let me pull this down. At the time of this failover, you will see that fail messages. It will be failed for few seconds, and after that it will continue eventually. So let me just click on failover. Now the failover group is in progress, and if I take this one, just keep an eye. It will fail for few seconds. So see, insert on primary failed, read from secondary failed, because as of now it is in changing the roles. So let's wait for it. Once it gets reversed, DR server will become primary. Yeah, it became primary now. So my DR server, if you see, it has become primary, and West Europe has become primary, and North Europe has become secondary. So now after 4 failures, from the next one, the application is working fine. Insert on primary successful, read from secondary successful. Did I make any changes to my connection string? No,
No.
not at all. So that's the beauty of auto failure groups. So you don't need to make any changes to your application. It will work happily. And now if I go to my SSMS, previously my test fg dot secondary is my DR server, right? If I now execute the same query, let's see, it has to give me primary, means it, sorry, okay, let me connect again. My test fg secondary dot testing. Okay, so now instead of my DR server, it has to give me Azure AD SQL. So let me connect. Okay, previously it has given what is that? West Europe, sorry, West Europe, yeah. Now it will give North Europe. Select at the rate server name. See, Azure AD SQL is now the secondary database server. Previously, it has given my DR server when I connected to my test FG. After the failover, my test FG is now saying secondary server as Azure AD SQL instead of the DR server, whatever what I have. So that is how it works, guys. So you need not change your connection strings. You can add all the databases at one shot. You can failover all the databases at one shot. So let us go to that comparison. So now it makes sense for you. Right, automatic failover, agreed. I clicked on automatic failover and automatic failover did work here. The first option, we were successful. Failure of multiple databases, yes, we can do. For the moment, I just took one database, but even if you add multiple databases, it will get failed over automatically. I didn't update connection string here. That is the beauty of auto failure groups. I am not going to talk about manage instance because I already completed that. So manage instance, it is we don't have the concept of geo replication. That is, ignore this point for a second. And the fifth option, can be in the same region as primary. It's no. When you are doing auto failure groups, obviously it has to be in different region. Okay, can I configure multiple replicas? Because when I'm at the time of configuring, let me go to that configuration thing. Because if you want to configure, you have to choose the logical server name, not the database name, because it is at the instance level. I mean, at server level. So if I go here, add server, so I can only configure between two regions. I cannot have multiple replicas. That concept is not there. Multiple replicas is not being supported for auto failure groups. It's only for one replica. That's it. Last thing is read scale. Yes, you are seeing it, right? So if you see now, insert is successful, read is successful. So I'm able to read my data. So did we complete all the points here? I hope so. For auto failure groups. Any questions?
Vamsi, can you show the database setting at SSMS level, how it will be after failover?
You will not see that synchronized, or it will never appear. So I'm just opening this. It will be like this. You will never see that option of synchronized or synchronizing or not synchronizing. No such options, because this is Azure SQL.
But read only we can, anywhere we can get.
No, you cannot get it. You can just connect, and only thing is you can fire one query. I think that is, 1 second, guys. There is one query that you can check, but that is also, it will just give you true or false. What is that? Is updatability something? Updatability Azure SQL. Something is there. Let me check. I think this one. Control F, updatability. Yeah. So this is what you can verify. Verify that connection is to a read-only replica. If you wanted to check this, this is the only option that you have. Okay. There is no other option. Just copy this. Okay. So if I find this here, so I'm inside master. Let me run this. What will be the output inside master? Okay. So as of now, it is read, right? Of course, we are not going to check for master. So our point of thing is this database. I just added this database, DS. Sorry for that naming convention. So I'll show you that. This is read, right? Sorry, read only. So if you see here, Azure AD SQL, which is the secondary server, my test FG. So I'm connecting to the secondary replica, right? Because if you see secondary is there means it is read-only replica. So when I am passing the database name and checking with the updatability parameter, so it is giving me read-only. Okay. The same thing if I do it on the primary end, which is without that keyword, secondary means here. And if I change this to DS, it is read write. That is the difference. So here it is read only. Here it is read write. This is the only query that you can check. There are no other queries, unfortunately. If you fire something like sys.availability groups and all, you will never get anything out of it. Of course, I think that DMA itself will not be available if I'm not wrong. Let me run. Yeah. No such DMVs because all these things are happening behind the scenes, and all the DMVs, what you are aware till now, will be of no use when it comes to Azure SQL. And also don't think that you will be getting that option like, what is that, always on dashboard report. No such things. Even for the database itself, you will not get those things. As you can see, synchronized or something, it's not appearing, right? Nothing is appearing, right? So it's the same thing. I think I'm still running that application. Yeah, it is still running. It's okay. If you are clear, I will just show you a bit of advanced thing on the same auto failure groups. If you are comfortable. Why no one is replying means, is it okay or?
Yeah, it's okay, Vamshi.
Okay, I'm stopping now. Stopping the application. And now what I will do is, in real time, they will never allow, if you are a good DBA, you should not allow public access to any of your Azure SQL servers. Okay. So again, and I'm saying public, it will be there only at server level, not at the database level. Of course, we have database firewall rules, but if you are doing it server level, it is good. Okay. So this is the public access. This is the private access. Okay. In real time, if you are working in real time, obviously your public access should be disabled. It should not be enabled because it's of security reason, security threat. And also I think whenever they run that, what is that, vulnerability report, something is there, right? Assessment, some reports will be there. And inside that report, you will get this warning also, some kind of warning message saying that your public access has been enabled. So I'm disabling that public access now. Okay, for both of my servers, the DR server and as well as my the primary server. So let me go over there, networking, and disable, and then save. So I have only private access now. I don't have public access. So I have already created the private endpoints. And now if I come to the application, and let me recompile the package. If I run this now, do you think my package, the application will work or not? So straight away, it is throwing some error. It is saying connection was denied since deny public network access is set to yes. So it is straight away saying, I cannot connect to that instance because you have disabled the public access, public network access. So what can I do now? So are you getting the problem before talking about the solution? It's clear, right? So I disabled the public network access and my application is now not able to connect to the database server because I turned it off, and obviously I'm not able to connect. So if I wanted to connect from my local laptop, what should I do? Anyone knows this? This is related to Azure networking. I just wanted to ask this question. If anyone is aware, it's fine. You can go ahead.
In Azure, I don't know, but in AWS, we have inbound rules. We need to follow that IP routes.
Okay, AWS, I'm not sure, but there is no concept of inbound, outbound here for Azure SQL, at least. I mean, it's for managed instance, we have the inbound, outbound rules, but not for Azure SQL.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what you are saying, but this is not applicable. This is very different. Okay, inbound, outbound, generally, if I, okay, let me talk about inbound, outbound, since you are talking about that. What is that server? Azure. One second.
Security groups.
I don't have managed instance, but still I can show with IAS. Azure AD, yeah. Networking. So we have inbound, outbound rules for IAS missions or for Azure managed instance, but not for Azure SQL. It's not there. So this is inbound and outbound, what you are saying. That concept itself is not there for Azure SQL. Okay, what should I do now if I wanted to access my application from local laptop? Anyone knows this? It will be of interesting thing. 1 second, guys. So, okay, if I wanted to connect from my laptop, what I have to do is I have to configure. If I'm letting you know, I have to configure. It's called as point to site. Okay, I have to configure point to site for my application to talk to my Azure SQL if I disable the public access. Okay, so for that I need virtual network gateway. Before configuring point to site, I have to configure virtual network gateway. Then only I will be able to talk to my application. Otherwise, I cannot. Okay, all these topics I covered entirely in my Azure classes. I've given my best with that. So I expected that answer from few people, but it's okay, fine. So if I wanted to talk to my application, if I disable the public access, then I need some kind of connectivity. See, laptop is outside the Azure world, right? My laptop is completely different from Azure world. It doesn't know anything about Azure. Only if you enable the public connectivity, it knows and it will connect with my public IP. If I disable the public access, and if I wanted to still connect to my Azure SQL from my local laptop, then I have to do something called as point to site. Okay, so that is the answer, but it's fine. I mean, no one will ask you this kind of questions in interview because laptop is a different story. So forget about that. So now I will stop this application. Okay, so the same thing. Now I am connecting from one of the Azure VMs. Oh, okay, I have one Azure VM with me. Let me show you that. Oh, I'm inside the machine. Okay. This is my Azure machine, which is having 2019 or 2017. So this is part of Azure, right? So if I wanted to talk to my logical servers, two logical servers, Azure SQL servers from this machine, will I be able to do it, or will I get any errors? From laptop, obviously you have seen that it is throwing the error saying that it's not possible. Okay, even for you, just to show you up, even if I open the laptop, I open the SSMS, and if I try to connect, see what happens. The same thing, the same message, whatever it is showing, you will get the same thing. Azure AD SQL dot database dot windows dot net. It will throw an error saying that you have disabled the public network access. It is not possible for me to connect. Just wait for it. Just a few seconds. Oh, I misspelled it. Sorry. I'll pick it from here. Yeah. So the same thing. Connection was denied since deny public network access is set to yes. That is very clear. So I disabled it. You cannot connect it. now the question is, I am connecting from Azure VM to my Azure SQL servers. Do you think it will allow or it will throw any error? What is your opinion? Just give it a try. It's okay. Even if you say wrong, it's fine.
Within the same network, I think it will work.
Okay, so let's try to connect and see what happens. I'm closing everything. Object Explorer. Okay, I removed everything. I'm connecting now. So first I will connect to the logical server instead of failover group name and see if that works fine. See, here I don't have such problem. Okay, let me connect to the other counterpart, my DR server, which is primary now. Okay, so let's observe the IP addresses of both the machines and let's see if you're able to find something from it. So I'm firing NS lookup. You can copy this. Okay, I will type it better. Database.windows.net. So I'm getting 10.1.0.5 as the IP addresses. I disable the public access. So obviously I will get only private IP addresses range only. If I'm saying private IP addresses, you will see only 10 series, 172 series and 192 series. That's it. Okay. And now my DR server. My DR server. Okay. 10.2.0.4. Again, and what is the mission IP? Mine is 10.1.0.8, my mission, this Azure VM. So just think about this, guys. This is part of 10.1 series and my DR server is part of 10.2 series. And also just to let you know, my primary server, which is now secondary, is in West Europe, sorry, North Europe, and the other party, the other server is in West Europe. So how they are able to talk to each other? Will it be, I mean, we have to do something, right? Do you know what is that something, what I have done? Two different, yeah, go ahead.
Peering.
Yeah, obviously. So it's purely because of peering. So let me show you that. That is the reason I'm able to talk to my missions from Azure VM, even though they are in different subnets. Of course, one is in the same subnet, but the other one, I'm talking about the West Europe. It is in different network, but still I'm able to connect because I did the peering behind the scenes. So if I go to the virtual networks, and this is my West Europe VNet, and this is Azure AD VNet. You can open any one VNet because you can get that information from anywhere. So if I go to the peering section, so I have peered it. Sorry. So I peered my Azure AD VNet to that West Europe thing. So that is why you are seeing connected. Peering status is connected. And even if I go to this and if I select that option, it will be the same thing. The peering will be there to Azure AD VNet connected. So that is the reason you are able to connect. Okay. So now from application, I'm trying to do the same thing, insert and that same stuff. Will I get any errors or it will be okay? Obviously it will be okay because the connection is there. I'm just showing you from here also. Let me recompile. It might fail for the first initial tries. After that, it will work. It's okay. Let's wait for it. So from now, it will be successful. So this is now connecting to my secondary server, which is the West Europe. West Europe is primary now. Even though West Europe is primary, my connectivity is successful. Okay, so now if I wanted to twist this, I can do this. In real time, you will see all these things. Okay, but for your practices, if you do up to this point, it's okay. But in real time, there will be few more things that you have to do. I can show you that error if you want. I will do something from my end behind the scenes. Will you be able to find out that issue? What that I'm going to show you? Just a challenge, kind of. If you are okay. Otherwise, I will continue with Geo Replication. That is that question will be something related to networking. If you have to be good at good at networking, at private endpoints, especially private endpoints.
So we may need a site to site or virtual network gateway. Is it related?
Okay, first time, if you're okay, I will stop the screen share for a second and I will do that mistake and I will ask you to troubleshoot. If you are interested, if not, we will go with Geo Replication. It's your choice.
Please.
Who is there? Kiran, I don't know if you are there. You want me to do that? Zaim, oh Zaim, you are there. Good morning, Zaim. Okay, let me do that then. It will be interesting. Don't worry. So stop share. What I have to do is I will do something and it will throw the error. Just give me 1 second. I'm done. So I hope you are able to see my screen. Or it is still the same. Okay, see, all of a sudden, insert on primary failed, read from secondary failed. Okay, till this point it was successful and now it is failing. Now as a DBA, of course I'm the developer now, I will say DBA, I don't know, for some reason my DMLs are not successful and even the select operations are not successful. That will be my complaint. So now as a DBA, what will you do? What will be your set of actions now? Just open up, guys, so that it will be very interactive and you'll get some good knowledge.
Peering might be removed.
Okay, peering is first option. So let us check the peering. Azure AD VNet, and let's go to the peering part. So peering is still in place. Peering is there. Okay, peering is one good thing. Yeah. So where will you check and what will you check? It's not that easy, right? This is not SQL Server. So if you're getting these messages in real time, it's very hard to debug. Okay, first of all, let's see what are the options, what you have with you. What are the things like peering is one option. Yeah, it is in place now. What else that you can think of?
Virtual network gateway.
Virtual network gateway, it's not required because I'm coming from VM. Since I'm coming from VM, VM is part of Azure, so I don't need virtual network gateway. If I'm coming from local laptop, yes, I need, or from on-premises, I need virtual network gateway. Since I'm coming from the same Azure world, I don't need virtual network gateway here. Okay, all are busy because this is Saturday, I can imagine. Yeah. Okay, still it is
Firewalls. Can you check firewalls?
firewalls. Okay, that's a good point. Firewall. So let me go to Azure server, Azure AD SQL, and let me go to the firewall section. I'll go to networking so that it will be easy for you. I didn't make any changes. It remains the same. Public access is disabled. If I disable the public access, then the connectivity will happen only with private access. So this is the private access and firewall. Firewall will be there for database level. So let me show you that. Set server firewall. So it will take us to again the same networking section as I told you. So you can do it at database level or at instance level. So it remains same. I didn't make any changes to my connectivity. Like as of now, it is only with private access. So no changes with firewall. Okay, it's very hard. So I think I discussed this in my classes. So we have the private link. Okay, what I did is I removed this virtual network link. There has to be a virtual network link for this connectivity to work. Even though you have peering, doesn't matter. If you don't have this virtual network link, it will not work. Okay, so peering is right answer. I'm not denying that. But still peering is there. But as of now, if I go here, it is still failing. And for your information, even if I try to connect to the from SSMS also, it will fail. I'll show you that. First, I will connect to Azure AD. See, the error what I'm getting from a local laptop or from on-premises, street local laptop as my on-premises, I'm getting even for Azure VM also. It's saying connection was denied since deny public network access is set to yes. Okay, so it is appearing for VM also. Initially, this problem was not there, but I did something, and because of that something, we are getting these messages now. And it is not that easy to troubleshoot in real time, guys. So you have to have hands-on in various directions, especially with networking part. Okay, so I deleted the virtual network here. So I have to create that virtual network. Once I create that virtual network, it will work fine. So link name, I'm just giving it as testing because just for our test purpose. So I have to add my the network here. And after adding this, if I don't do this option, if I don't do this, there is one option. If I do this, there will be one more thing. So we have two options here. If you enable automatic registration, it will register the DNS record of your machines automatically to private DNS of Azure. If you don't do this, you have to add it manually. You have to create a record. This is again a kind of what can I say, AD level things. So entire my journey went ahead with this AD networking and other stuff. So for the moment, I am clicking on enable automatic registration. So once I complete this action, you will not get the errors and our application will work automatically. Let's wait for it. As of now, it is still failing. It has to create. It will take 2 minutes or so. I think close to 2 minutes. So did you find anything useful? Anything you learned?
Yeah, yes, Vamsi.
So let's wait for it. Once it gets finished, if you're okay, I will go with Geo Replication. It's very simple. Or else I will take some other time. It's better. I will take some other time. We completed auto failure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Vamsi, one question.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
do we have a automatic failover in Geo Replication?
Don't think that automatic failover because see, if you are thinking automatic failover, that is nothing but outage for the entire Microsoft region itself, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it has to happen at their end. We cannot create that situation, and it has to happen at their end. And if it happens, okay. So you raised a very good question. So now I'll talk about those two options. Just give me a second. Refresh. It's completed.
Vamsi, can you open that link? The record which we create. Private
Okay.
zone link.
Okay. Private zone. Okay, I'm going.
Yes, can you open that?
Yeah,
Inside the properties.
let me disable. So automatically my when I use that option complete auto registration, what happens is that it will create the DNS entry for all the VMs inside that VNet into the Azure private DNS zone. So we have two concepts here. I'm not sure how good are you with AD. So we have the concept of public DNS. We have the concept of private DNS. So all the traffic will flow with private DNS if you are using private endpoints. So I've done a lot of, I took so many classes on this. I don't know if you are able to understand that because it is not our area, because we are SQL DBS and that is something related to Azure Active Directory. But still, I try to give my best. So we have two different types of connectivity here. Two different types of DNS. One is public DNS and the other one is private DNS. Private DNS means it will be only with missions that are part of Azure. Okay, if you're coming from on-premises, it doesn't know anything about on-premises mission. Private DNS of Microsoft doesn't know anything related to on-premises thing. For that, we have to do so many things. If you are okay, there is one thing called as, what was that? What I made use of? Private DNS resolvers. So you can make use of private DNS resolvers for the on-premises to talk to Azure world using private endpoints. This is what I did for MI classes. So the same thing applies here. So as of now, this mission, Azure DC SQL, it was not there. When I removed that virtual network link, it got deleted. And after adding the virtual network link, it got created now. Since this mission is part of private DNS zone, those errors will disappear now. First, I will show you the connectivity because it will take some time. It's DNS level, right? It will take up to 2 minutes or so to reflect, but connectivity will work. So see, I used to get that deny public something, but now it is working fine. So these are all tied up, guys. So if you are able to understand networking and kind of Active Directory, it will be very easy. Otherwise, yeah, you have to rely on other teams. Okay. So it is working fine. So someone was asking me one question. What is that? Automatic failover, right? Automatic failover. Let me go to the automatic failover section. So that automatic failover means is nothing but failover or the outage at Microsoft data centers region level, which is not that easy to happen. And that is why at the time of creation, there is something called as read write failover policy and read write grace period. I told you I will be explaining this bit later. So this is read write grace period, which is by default. Okay, the minimal thing is 1 hour. 1 hour. Grace period is 1 hour. Why they have given 1 hour here? Why can't they give maybe minutes or so? They should have given some minutes only, right? When I am saying automatic failover, obviously it has to be super fast. But they are not doing that. Even Microsoft itself is giving the minimum grace period as 1 hour. Anyone is having any idea on this? Okay. Yeah, someone just unmuted. Go ahead if you wanted to. Okay, so it's not only a DB level, guys. If something happens, entire data center means it will have web servers, app servers, some load balance servers. There are so many things that comes into picture. So this outage is literally means some issue at Microsoft level. And if they wanted to recover this, it's not just a database. It has to be the entire application. So they are considering that as 1 hour. At least they will take 1 hour to reconfigure everything that is at web server level, app server level, load balancer level, everything. So their grace period is 1 hour. That is the reason. So even if I click on failover, it is happening instantaneously now. But if we wanted to see that automatic failover, okay, the outage has to happen at Microsoft level, which I don't think it will happen. But still, if it happens, they are taking at least 1 hour as the downtime to make this up, because they have to balance their web servers, app servers, any other missions, load balancers, whatever what you talk, they have to adjust all those things. They have to reconfigure those applications to the counterpart. I mean the DR server.
Oh,
So
just
they are,
add a note, Vamsi.
yeah,
If manually has stopped that server at the
you
time, it
cannot
will.
drop it, because this is the OS itself. You don't have any access to the operating system. This is PaaS. You cannot stop the instance. You cannot start the instance. You can't do anything. You cannot make the database offline. You can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so the control is in their hands. You are just literally following their instructions.
Okay.
So when you are
Yeah,
moving to,
Vamsi, one question.
yeah,
Yeah. So if something happened to my primary replica, so will that application failover to failover connect to that secondary replica, the DR replica, or do we
Uh,
need to manually fail over that?
so usually if something happens in the grace period of 1 hour, it will move out automatically. You don't need to do anything. So that's the reason this is being represented as 1 hour. They will take 1 hour as the speed.
No.
Yeah.
No, no. I'm talking about that geo replication. So if you configure the geo replication
One
between two
second. So
servers,
is it
so
geo
if
replication or auto failure groups?
no, I am asking about geo replication.
Okay, geo replication. So geo replication, if you see this, we don't have the concept of automatic failover for geo replication.
Okay. So you mean to say that the auto failover group is it's related to entire sorry, it's a data center level.
Obviously, right? Yeah,
So to failover, right?
yeah.
Okay. So my question is geo replication, okay, automatic fail not possible. If something happened to my primary server, so how it is my application automatically pointed to that DR server, or do we need to manually fail over that to DR?
No, there is no question of something happening to our what is that primary DB server. Okay, even if it happens
Okay.
by any chance, okay, this is being managed by Microsoft. So chances of getting affected is highly impossible, because so if something like hurricane or severe damage, maybe
Okay. Got it.
if something happens, then
Yeah, got
only
it. Yeah, okay, got it.
this scenario comes into picture. So it is unlike the scenarios what we are
Okay.
seeing in our on-premises. The concept is something similar to our
Okay, got it.
on-premises.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, and one more question. So suppose if I fail over my from primary to secondary, so will I need to change that my application string?
No. That's what you've seen here,
That
right? So if I take my
yeah.
PowerShell app, automatically the primary, the secondary, they are getting adjusted automatically. You need not do anything. So
Okay.
let me show you that because I have to recompile. Otherwise, sometimes it will not work. This is stupid app. So I'm not a developer. So come on. Okay, so as of now, it is working fine, right? As you can see, insert successful, read successful. So if I perform any failover now, so it will fail for few seconds and it will adjust automatically. So let me fail over. So as of now, my DR server is primary, which I don't want. I want my Azure AD, I mean, the West Europe, sorry, North Europe as my primary. So I'm clicking on failover here. Forced failover is different. I don't want to talk about that now. I'm just showing you failover.
Okay.
And what is your opinion on this technology like Azure auto failure groups or geo replication? Do you think it will be done in synchronous mode or asynchronous mode?
I think it's a synchronous mode.
So just keep an eye on that part, guys. So it will be in asynchronous mode because they are across the region. So if, say, for example, if I'm keeping my primary as America and my secondary as Singapore, so it is so far from each other, right? So if that is the case, obviously, if you go with sync method, they will die. So see here, it got failed for 4 or 5 transactions, and from 5th transaction, it is successful. So you need not do anything. So this is automatic failover, and you need not modify your connection strings. That is the advantage of auto failure groups. Whereas in geo replication, you have to update your application manually. So I didn't build that application, Java application for geo replication. So I will build that. And in the next class, I will show you, I'll talk about geo replication with that same app. So where it will fail and you have to change the connection string manually.
So we need to change the connections manually, right?
Yes.
So after failovering, before failovering.
No. After the failover, you have to, if you are doing manual failover, you know that it is going to, that secondary server is going to happen now as the primary, right? I mean, it is, we're switching the roles. So if you want
Yeah.
to safeguard, then you can take that control. If it happens naturally, you cannot take it. You have to update your connection strings manually.
No, if
So
if it is doing naturally, we need to change that application string manually, right?
No, so the point is, are you talking about geo replication or auto failure groups?
No, geo replication only
Geo
after
replication.
failover.
Okay. Geo replication after failure. Yes, you have to update your connection strings after failure. Yes.
Okay.
So this
So
one.
and also it's a synchronous mode only, right?
Geo replication is asynchronous only, because usually, as I said, geo replication is also at only a database level. First thing. Second thing, you are doing across the region. If you are doing across the region, so it doesn't make sense for them to operate in synchronous model, because the network bandwidth will be super slow.
Okay, got it.
Someone was asking some question about to ask, I think.
So when
Yeah,
we
where can we, one final question. Where can we change that connection strings, etc.?
In your see, for my application, for example, for this application, so I've given read write URL like this and read only URL like this, since I'm developed this application for auto failure groups. If I'm developing this for geo replication, so I will have only one connection string with me. I will not have, of course, I can support read only replicas. Okay, that is fine. But here I have to update with proper server name. If you see here, for auto failure groups, I have given the failure group name instead of the server names. Logical server names I have given failure group name. But in case of geo replication, since it is only at database level, I have to give that logical server name, not the what is that failure group name. There is no concept of failure group name in geo replication. It has to be logical server only.
Okay, got it.
I have to change this.
So, okay, that is a developer part, right? The changing the connection strings
Yeah,
at
it
their end.
is their end. But if you know that these are the things that needs to be monitored, you can directly talk to the developer saying that, okay, the database got failed over and you have to adjust your connection strings if you are using geo replication. But if you are using auto failure groups, no such things needs to be done. It will be taken care automatically.
Okay. So auto failover groups, the geo replication also comes into the part of auto failover groups.
Obviously,
Because
that is a
it's in the
point
same.
actually. But I didn't discuss about geo replication because I didn't develop that app. So I wanted to develop that, and I will show you with proper app just like this, so that you will feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, no, I got it. Now I got some pictures. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, if no questions, I will stop better, because if I take geo replication again, it will be 1 more hour. I don't want to waste your time. This is Saturday, so I will take tomorrow. I have to develop that application. So once I'm done, I will.
Yeah, one
take
more question, UMC. See, database level we have, for example, auto failure group. So, but the login and jobs and other parts is
You
not
have to
much.
take care. You have to take care. There is no automatic functionality like the jobs and not about jobs, the logins, because you will be connecting with logins, right?
Yes,
Because there are no jobs on Azure SQL, so it will be with the different things like Azure automation or Elastic jobs or whatever the way what you are doing. So if that is the case, the logins and the users will be there. The logins you have to sync up.
even in the managed instance also, if we have auto failure group, it will
Same
not.
thing. Same
Yes,
thing. Same
okay.
thing.
The
No
database
difference.
will migrate automatically, right?
Database, because they are part of users, right? That's the reason Microsoft is asking you to go with contained users instead of logins.
Okay.
If you go with contained users, users will be shipped automatically, and you need not worry about this syncing up of logins or like that. If you are not making use of contained users, obviously you have to get that logins from primary to secondary if it gets failed over. See,
Yeah.
the chances of failure is highly unlikely. If you are doing it manually as part of DR drill or something like that, yes, you have to consider that part.
Yes, even the link server, everything we have to do manually.
Link servers we don't have in Azure SQL.
No, in managed instance.
Yeah, managed instance, it supports only SQL server linked servers, not the other RDBMS. Yeah,
Yes.
linked servers you have to migrate. That's required. For managed instance, yes, you have to migrate jobs, you have to migrate linked servers. And for Azure SQL, there is no such things because it doesn't support. We have the other ways, and we have to modify over there.
Clear.
Yeah, many things are there. It's not a cakewalk. These are new topics, so you have to practice these things, like what happens if something goes wrong.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, guys, I will drop off. And if you have any questions, please
Vamshi.
feel free to meet. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Vamshi, no, this is relevant to the SQL, Azure SQL, only, but not to this topic. So do you have any session on how to decommission Azure SQL DB? Or
Decommission. So how will I know to decommission? It's like purely decision of your application, right? I mean, your management.
yes, yes.
So
The
you
thing
have
is
to,
that
yeah, go ahead.
so I got a requirement, so I need to decommission one database. So
Okay.
as you said, so here I'm not getting option to bring the database offline and go to the portal and delete. So I'm not getting that changing the DB status also.
No, you can't do it because it will be with their hands. So what you can do is at max, just ensure there are no connections to the database. If that is the
Yes,
case, just you have to delete it. And the good thing is you can restore it for up to 7 days. So if something goes wrong and they wanted to get that database back again.
Yeah, we kept it backup. We kept it
Yeah.
already backup in the storage bucket. So that is, there is some LRS settings so that we can keep the database
Yes.
backup up to
Yeah.
1 month or 3 months and 1 year also.
So
So
we
if
have
something goes there.
10 by default, it is 35 days. 35 days and sorry, 7 days, then 35 days,
7 days.
and then 10 years. Long-term retention is 10 years.
Yeah.
So
So just delete only.
Yeah, delete is the only option. You can't do anything.
I'm trying to change the DB mode.
No, you
See, I
can't do
can
it.
see the status is online,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just setting this
No.
alter command. I'm trying the alter command. That didn't work.
It will not work. On MI also the same thing. You cannot make them as offline.
No.
Even read only we cannot make database, right?
No, even read only can't do.
Okay.
The control is with them. So it's just like we are puppets. We are just listening to their instructions. Kind of. We don't know that still, but yeah, a kind of puppets.
Yeah, but you can remove the logins and users so that they will not be able to connect that database.
Yeah, you can disable the logins. That also you can do, like the connections, whatever that is hitting the database. If you can disable it, if provided, if they are connecting only to that database, if that same login is connecting to other databases, again it will be a problem, right? Because you cannot uncheck. Just for your information, we are not able to see the logins itself for Azure SQL. At least if you are on managed instance, you can see that part. Here that is not possible. So you don't, if you rely only on graphical thing, yeah, a lot of people will struggle with Azure SQL because there is no such graphical support.
Got it.
Yeah, that is there.
Yeah. It's a task in a normal on-prem. We can see many options in a task, but in Azure SQL, we
It's not
can't
possible.
see.
That's true. And I think I covered this. I have few scripts as well, where for doing.
Yeah, Vamshi, one more question. Can we do active geo replication, or it's only active passive only?
This is auto failure groups is like only one replica is being supported, so it is active passive.
Okay. So it's the secondary should be always on read only, right? In geo replication.
Here so guys, if you are using if you talk about geo replication, my question is like, see, I'm thinking like I didn't explain anything about geo replication, but all the questions are landing on geo replication. So that is what I'm getting confused. So, so are your questions on geo replication or auto failure groups? I wanted to be very precise with that.
Yeah,
mostly failover groups.
Okay.
Okay, auto failure groups. Yeah, that's the reason I just kept this open, because if you can see these 6 points, if you are having the 6 points, then it makes sense for me to talk easily. Because if you keep on asking questions on geo replication, I'm like surprised because.
Okay, sorry, I will come to that part when you explain about.
Yeah. Once I take geo replication, maybe tomorrow, once I develop that app, we can talk about geo replication completely.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So I will upload this onto YouTube as well, because it's early morning in India, I know. So people have not joined. So I will definitely upload this. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vamshi, what is that your YouTube this one?
Channel.
Okay, I forgot. I will share that. No, I'm not sure. I'm not checking regularly. Okay. I will ping you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Hey, no. So what I'm saying that you can easily check Vamshi, Chiranjeevi, something. You can get the videos. Like, okay. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm using 3 or 4 Gmail accounts, so I got confused which one I was using for YouTube. Sorry for that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
See Chiranjeevi.
it should be something like that. Yeah. Okay, so I will wind off and I will catch you tomorrow, guys. I will try to develop that app quickly today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vamshi.
Yeah, bye bye.